Story 1. Enterprise. It comes with replicators which provide a quick path to a post-scarcity society. Also, it does not smell like Wookiee. Story 2. There have been many versions of the Starship Enterprise, but even in the original Star Trek series, it had impressive features like teleporters and powerful weapons. It also included decent-sized recreation areas, multiple laboratories, the medical bay, dining facilities, spacious engineering sections, numerous storage bays, at least 2 shuttles and quarters for many people. It sounds hard to beat. Story 3. A fast Winnebago or a high-speed cruise ship in space. The next generation Enterprises would win hands down. It is a fully loaded resort with massive offensive and defensive capabilities. Do not get me wrong, I really like the Falcon, but it is more of a broken-down tour bus with a couple of shotguns pointed out the windows. Story 4. The Enterprise is much more overpowered. Weapons on that ship can crack planets open. I guess it depends if the ships come with a crew. Story 5. The Enterprise is like a whole town. The Millennium Falcon is the space equivalent of an old pickup truck. Story 6. I would take the Starship Enterprise for the comfort and use the holodeck to create a Millennium Falcon simulator. Story 7. Even without a full crew, you take the Starship Enterprise. The Millennium Falcon fits inside its docking bay. Sell the Enterprise, get the ship you need, a crew, and money to buy trade goods. Story 8. Enterprise if I am looking to just live on a ship. Millennium Falcon if I am looking for something with speed and maneuverability. Story 9. Does the Enterprise come with a full crew that you have to pay? Or is it just room and board? Can they quit? It seems like a headache. Story 10. How is this even a question? I mean, I love some Star Wars, but to watch it? No way. I would never want to live in that world of massive inequality. Story 11. The Enterprise, the quintessential modern starship with warp speed, well-armed and crewed, with all the comforts, with Counselor Troy and Tasha Yar among the crew. It is, I believe, the only one to have a holodeck, which would be an essential amusement. Every starship should have one. I would, of course, be the captain, sipping my cup of Earl Grey tea while perusing the daily action reports until a Klingon bird of prey unlocked in my path. Story 12. USS Enterprise. They care more about Earth, and we could benefit from reverse engineering all their technology. Story 13. Neither. I'll have my time and relative dimension in space then. I don't need to worry about speeds or castle runs. I can just go back in time. Story 14. The Millennium Falcon is designed to be operated by a single owner-operator. The Starship Enterprise is a naval vessel meant to have a professional crew to operate it and would be extremely expensive to own and operate. It is unlikely that a civilian would be allowed to own antimatter and dilithium crystals in the quantity needed to power the Starship Enterprise. Additionally, there is no way to park the Starship Enterprise at a condominium. It is similar to asking whether you would rather own a nuclear aircraft carrier or a 50-foot trawler. Even a billionaire might have difficulty maintaining the nuclear propulsion system, and the approximately $1 billion per year operating cost would be a significant expense. This cost might be lower if the vessel were not kept in deployable condition and only used for leisure, as the reactor would likely never need refueling but would still require routine maintenance. Story 15. If you were talking about next-generation Enterprise D or Enterprise F, yes. The Falcon is not bad, but it is old and needs a lot of repairs. Enterprise F is new and can have a holographic crew for repairs. The faster-than-light drive is better and it adds shuttles and transports. Story 16. If I could have any ship from Star Trek, I would take Captain Sisko's USS Defiant. I feel it is small enough for a few people to live on, and if you remove the mess hall and add a holodeck, it becomes the perfect ship with a cloaking device. Story 17. Since I own it, I am choosing the Enterprise, and I can hire the crew like pirates to go pillage planets. It can carry much more cargo, and many staff members could be reduced. Story 18. Considering the holodeck and replicators, I do not know how anyone can pick the Falcon. There is also room for everyone. Annoyed with half the ship? Forget them, separate the ship and leave. Story 19. I feel like the Millennium Falcon would be more fun. I know the USS Enterprise is better equipped, but both have warp and hyperspace capabilities which are essential for travel. Although the Falcon doesn't have a transporter, you can just land it anywhere. I would probably find a good ship mechanic and have a replicator installed though. Story 20. Is there even a question? I do not know Star Trek well, but the size and technology of the USS Enterprise surpassed the Millennium Falcon significantly. Story 21. Enterprise is a better choice because it is based on a civilization that follows ours in our timeline and universe. Story 22. Enterprise is a nicer place to live in general, but the Falcon seems flyable with two people, and the Enterprise really is not. Enterprise D does have holodecks, though, and that is better than holo chess. Story 23. Which option has more space, additional amenities, and a higher likelihood of survival during intense combat situations? Story 24. Does the Enterprise come with cleaning staff? If so, yes, the giant ship with lasers, photon torpedoes, shields, shuttles, transporters, futuristic game rooms, and a bar. But if I have to clean up after myself. Story 25. The Millennium Falcon gets a lot of love and would be fun for dogfights in space, but the United States ship Enterprise is an exceptional spacecraft with far superior technology and weapons. Story 26. My heart says Millennium Falcon, but my brain says United States ship Enterprise. I just don't have the budget to constantly have the old Falcon in the shop. Story 27. It's the Enterprise, and it's not even close. The holodeck, food replicators, and saucer separation if needed. But for me, it has got to be the United States ship Constitution class. Story 28. Enterprise, more room and more technology to put to use. Plus, the Enterprise has better defenses and weapons to fight, and to crew it I could bring all the friends who wanted to come along. Story 29. Enterprise. The technology alone is totally worth it. The only downside I can think of is I cannot operate it alone, but a bit of holodeck activity should fix that quickly. Story 30. I think having a small boat would be more realistic. You cannot leave the starship under complete computer control indefinitely. Story 31. Millennium Falcon. It seems like anything else I own. Kind of a beater. Nothing special. Old. But if you hit it with a wrench when you really need it to work, it will. Story 32. How is this even a question? The Falcon is literally known to be a junker and is tiny. The Enterprise is like a flying city, literally coated in gold half the time. Story 33. Enterprise. It has a transporter and a holodeck. It is built for exploration. The Millennium Falcon is a cargo freighter. Story 34. Enterprise for me. I have always wanted a holodeck. I always thought the elevators were cool. I like the way the doors open and close and the sound they make. The sickbay can cure almost everything. Story 35. The Millennium Falcon is a patchwork of modifications and repairs that only its owner and maybe co-pilot fully understand. It is almost always on the verge of breaking down without specialized maintenance. I will take whichever iteration of the Starship Enterprise has holo emitters throughout the ship so I can have a full photonic crew doing my bidding. Surely the Odyssey class has those. If I cannot have that, I will take the Galaxy class and keep it parked in orbit with the warp core shut down so I do not have to deal with that. Even without that, the fusion reactors would be more than enough to power a replicator and holodeck for one person. Story 36. Enterprise. And I don't even like Star Trek. It is much bigger, more comfortable, and of top-notch quality. The Millennium Falcon is like choosing to cross the ocean in an old, dusty speedboat instead of a cruise ship. Story 37. The Falcon, obviously. The Starship Enterprise is just full of tribbles and sentient viruses. No thanks. I'd rather clean up Wookiee mess. Story 38. The Falcon can be operated by one person. Although it is designed for a crew of 4 to 6, the Enterprise requires a minimum crew of around 40 to 50 to be operated properly. One person can manage with the computer controlling most systems if nothing goes wrong. But then there is Murphy. Give me a ship I can fly by myself. Story 39. You are not going to be flying either of them. My goal would be to sell it, and the Enterprise is worth much more because it has a warp drive, advanced shielding and missiles, and the holodeck. Story 40. The ship that lets me blow things up in time travel, but only so I can steal the last chimichanga from myself last month. Story 41. Which Enterprise? Without the letter designation, I can only imagine it is the first one from the original series. Story 42. I presume this is a troll. You do not have to be a nerd to know the correct answer, unless I am such a nerd that I am hopelessly lost in nerd world. Story 43. The Enterprise every time. Warp drive, photon torpedoes, transporters, and a holodeck. Plus the size alone. Story 44. Well, I cannot pilot either of them. There is no way I can get a crew together, so I suppose I will take the Enterprise the next generation for some enjoyable time on the holodeck. What else can I use either of them for without a crew? After a few months and a thorough deep cleaning, I would sell it at a convention and retire somewhere, shipwrecked and resting, drinking fresh mango juice. Story 45. Millennium Falcon. Because the United States ship Enterprise requires a large crew to run that I could never afford to hire. Story 46. The Falcon. I think she is a more manageable vessel for an individual like me. You cannot run the Enterprise without engaging in all that collaboration with others. She is obviously faster, as it is unlikely the Big E would do the Kessel run in anything under 112 parsecs, let alone 12. But to me the smell of Wookiee has me curious. I had a beautiful Rottweiler years ago, and maybe that Wookiee smell might evoke pleasant memories. Story 47. Falcon would be cool. The Starship Enterprise could literally change the course of humanity overnight. If choosing any Enterprise, you would probably want the Enterprise D from Star Trek: The Next Generation, as it has been upgraded to basically not need a crew. It has a replicator, transporter, advanced computer, holodeck, and medical equipment. With the replicator and computer, you could likely start mass production of fusion power on Earth for almost nothing. You could do so in the comfort of a ship that could easily shoot down, avoid, or shield any missile attack from Earth. You could essentially become the ruler of Earth because anyone who opposed you could simply be beamed off the planet. I hope whoever has the Enterprise has a good conscience with it. Story 48. The Falcon seems like it would be much easier to reverse engineer and maintain. The parts look and feel like things that could be machined today for the most part. Plus, it actually lands, and with the Enterprise, I am not sure if I am getting the shuttles to go with it. Seriously, forget the transporter. You cannot convince me that they are not just murder or cloning machines. Story 49. Why is the time and relative dimension in space not one of the options? Anyway, the technology on United States ship Enterprise would be make or break for a nation. I would sell it to New Zealand in exchange for citizenship with a passport, 1 billion New Zealand dollars, my own replicator, transporter, holosuit, and an appropriate computer to run it. Story 50. The Millennium Falcon was unreliable and frequently malfunctioned. Story 51. Don't get me wrong, I prefer Star Wars and honestly think the Millennium Falcon has more cool factor. But the Starship Enterprise just has more going for it, assuming it comes with a full crew. It has replicators, teleporters, landing ships, and holodecks. It's just too much to pass up. Story 52. Replicators and the holodeck are reason enough to choose the Starship Enterprise. However, there are many more reasons. There is no serious argument for the Millennium Falcon. Story 53. The Enterprise is the superior ship in every regard. You could even go to the holodeck and ask it to replicate the Millennium Falcon if you wanted. Story 54. I want to say Enterprise because it is much better, but I think I have a better chance of controlling the Falcon before all the world governments come for it. Story 55. The Enterprise wins by a landslide. Don't get me wrong, I love the Millennium Falcon. It's a cozy little home in the stars. But the Enterprise is basically a small to medium town. The amenities of the Enterprise alone are enough to win. Holodeck, gym, replicators, top-of-the-line medical bay, and a bar. The list goes on, and with its size, you can basically put whatever you want in there. And let's not even get started on combat supremacy. In a head-to-head fight with no ability to fully retreat, the Falcon gets absolutely obliterated. You don't even have to open fire. Just transport a bomb onto the Falcon in one of the many smuggling compartments and detonate. Reading the comments, it occurred to me that I didn't take into consideration the crews. I'm assuming the ships would come with a standard crew necessary for daily operation. For the Falcon, that would basically mean a co-pilot and hopefully an astromech droid. but quite a few more people for the Enterprise. Personally, I don't think it would be all that fun to have such a big and awesome ship without people to share it with. Story 56. Why not the Spaceballs bus? More practical than either. Or the Mega Maid. She can suck. She can blow. Story 57. A better comparison would be an Imperial cruiser versus the Enterprise. You are comparing a motorcycle to a cruise ship. Story 58. A true fan of these franchises will ask, which version? Enterprise D, Enterprise G, and which Falcon? Episode 5, Episode 6? Then the typical questions. How much is this going to cost? I cannot crew the Enterprise by myself. Also, you are comparing a ship that is absolutely enormous, making an aircraft carrier look small, to a ship that is only a little larger than a modern frigate or cruiser in living space. Story 59. What Enterprise? I mean, the original from the terms of service did not have replicators or holodecks, and had small quarters. The Star Trek, the next generation ship would be way more fun. Plus, you could park it and rent all kinds of things to people to make money and to pay for crew and maintenance. I would only take the Millennium Falcon if I was just jotting around doing whatever I felt like doing. Story 60. The Enterprise, because it is bigger, can withstand more damage than the Millennium Falcon. It has a holodeck and a bar. Story 61. Which Enterprise? If we get to choose, then I want Enterprise D or E for the replicators, holodeck, and medical bay. Quarters seem more comfortable too. Story 62. That's like asking if you want to own a luxury cruise liner or a dirty old houseboat with an oversized custom engine for quick getaways. Enterprise is absolutely the better choice, but how will you use a flying city? The Falcon is much more manageable. Story 63. The Millennium Falcon does not fall apart all the time. Getting hit by weapons fire will not make random consoles explode like anti-personnel mines. It does not require structural stability fields to exist without tearing itself apart. I do not have to worry about sudden random power outages, potential systems fluctuations risking the entire ship blowing up, the entertainment system spontaneously coming to life, the transport system mysteriously creating duplicates, evil clones, or other unusual problems. Story 64. Millennium Falcon. You could make some decent money with it and not need government backing to operate it. Story 65. This feels like an introvert and extrovert question. If I owned the Starship Enterprise, I would need a crew. The original series Enterprise had hundreds of crew members. Star Trek, the next generation, had thousands. I do not know what the bare minimum would be, but it would still be a lot. Story 66. My pick is the Millennium Falcon. I know the Starship Enterprise is bigger, stronger, has replicators, has a holodeck, and so on, but none of that overcomes the most important point. Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Story 67. USS Enterprise NCC 1701E with full crew and no responsibilities of my own. I would create the most amazing Dungeons and Dragons campaign of all time on the holodeck. Have the replicators available whenever I needed something. Access to incredible medical facilities and treatment. Private quarters. I would need a Romulan ale hookup though. Story 68. I would choose Heart of Gold from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with infinite improbability drive. Story 69. A world devastator from Star Wars Legends. It has a molecular furnace, allowing it to build more onto itself and the capability to construct and operate droid starfighters and troopers. My plan is to collect and use the space debris clogging our orbits before partially burying it at Bertal. That will be the nucleus of the city named 01, inspired by Animatrix. It comes with shields, defenses, and the ability to build almost anything needed. I plan to offer shelter and abundant water to the nomads of the area while respecting their space. Story 70. If my only options are those two, I would have to go with the Millennium Falcon. I can fly that with just a few friends' help. I do not know what the minimum crew requirements are for the Starship Enterprise D, but it is safe to say I would not want to hire the people it would take to take it out for a spin. I do not want either one, though. If I had to pick a ship from science fiction to own, it would be a General Systems vehicle from the Culture series of books. Story 71. Enterprise Medical Technology. such as emergency medical holograms, includes pattern buffers in transporters that can be used to restore past selves. The teleporter can enhance the body by removing fat, increasing muscle, or making you taller. Access to world-ending superweapons and shields can withstand any attack Earth can produce. Earthquakes, tractor beams. The Enterprise has altered entire atmospheres before, so weather manipulation is easy. I could control the entire world on a whim and vaporize any enemy anywhere. I would be an immortal god. Story 72. Is it possible that a better question would be choosing between the Millennium Falcon and Serenity? Enterprise is just such a different thing, like the difference between a speedboat and the fastest mega yacht. Story 73. Enterprise. It has holodecks, replicators, and is not randomly falling to pieces. However, I would have a small Falcon hanging somewhere to look at. Story 74. The Enterprise is the size of a small city, has replicators for anything I could need, and has excellent weapon systems. Story 75. Obviously, the Millennium Falcon can cross vast swaths of the galaxy in days and weeks, and only really needs a single person to pilot it and keep it in the air, not to say Chewbacca did not contribute heavily. It can land basically anywhere on a planet, which is not something large Star Trek ships like the USS Enterprise are capable of. The Enterprise is essentially a star destroyer built by an honest version of the United Nations, and it has a crew of over 1,000 people. Unless you count the Abrams movies. Story 76. Enterprise has replicators, teleporters, and lavish living areas. Falcon falls short on everything you'd want from a ship except for one: speed. Star Wars universe does not have a coherent concept of distance or speed, but watching the films you can figure out that ships are very fast, so fast that it hardly matters how far away something is. So the question is the universe empty or full? If it is full of interesting things, take the Falcon. If it is full of dead rocks and dust, take the Enterprise and just hang out in Earth's orbit. Story 77. Post-series finale of the USS Voyager. Future technology includes armor, weapons, and defenses. Holodecks, replicators, and other Starfleet equipment are featured. The ship is the size of a small village. Story 78. The Millennium Falcon could be operated by a smuggler and his Wookiee sidekick. The Enterprise needs a crew of hundreds. Give me the Millennium Falcon every day. Story 79. The Millennium Falcon can traverse the whole galaxy with hyperdrive in a few weeks, give or take. The Starship Enterprise with standard warp would take decades to traverse only a part of the Milky Way. If I were an explorer, I would go with the Millennium Falcon. But if I were all about the journey, I would go with the Starship Enterprise. Story 80. Just saying, but a lot of people will choose the Falcon because there are more Star Wars fans than Star Trek fans. By the way, I enjoy Star Trek more than Star Wars, and I know that even though they look similar, they are very different. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.